So I just want to show you the parts of the saddle. This is a Decker saddle I've got on here. It's got iron hoops. That's what they call these. So we're going to go over the parts of this particular saddle so you know that one right from the beginning. This is a modified hoop, actually with ears right here, so that we can pack panniers and other things that you're going to know very well by the end of this class, and maybe towards the beginning, hopefully, when it comes right down to it. But it's a saddle that was developed in the late 20s, early 30s. Actually, the guy that got the credit for it was a guy by the name of Robinette, and the Forest Service commissioned him to build a saddle that they could actually take things into the back country a lot. Oblong objects, any kind of size and weight and that sort of thing. They needed something that was a little more rugged, that wouldn't sore their animals and that sort of thing. So there's been, over the years, there's been a lot of development in this saddle, more so than the crossbuck saddle that goes way back, thousands and thousands of years. The time of Christ, they were using sawbuck saddles out of the materials they had on hand, and that sort of thing. But we'll explain the crossbuck when we get to it. Again, we're just going to go real quick right through the parts of the saddle, but those are the hoops. That's the thing that actually differentiates it from a different kind of saddle called the sawbuck or crossbuck saddle. It's part of the tree, and if you look right under here, you've got actually the bar, or the bar of the tree under here. This is a modified one that is sculpted to the back of the horse or the mule, so that it doesn't wear and it doesn't rub in any particular place. Typically, if it's a mule tree, it'll be a little bit longer because they have a tendency to have a longer back than a horse does. And so that's the tree, and that's the whole piece, but you got the hoops on top of it, and then you have the bars of the saddle that go along the back, that go parallel to the back. Okay, so some other things, you just notice that I lifted this piece here. It's actually a piece of padding. It's got some canvas over the top, and it's got a piece of wood here. And well, that piece is called the half-breed. It's a half-breed. Okay, so anyway, you can look at the diagrams I've got uploaded for you to see some of this too, but I wanted to go over this way too. This here actually adds a extra added protection for the pads, for the top, against the load of the animal. And that's why this piece of pine, or sometimes it's hardwood, is slipped in here, is the fact that the load will actually go up against that. And what that does, it distributes the weight all the way across the side of that animal, so that you don't just get one spot that's sitting there digging all day long. And we've actually fitted some of these half-breeds to our crossbuck saddles, and they work really well. But that just fits over the tree, and it's usually got some wool or some horsehair that's it's filled with, and that sort of thing. And then it's got this piece of a bar that goes across the side in order to distribute that weight. Okay, so let's just kind of go. We'll start here. We've got the breast collar, and that of course goes around the front. Some of it, this is a yoke style one, maybe you got on one of your roping horses or something like that you use there, but we put them on our pack saddles and really like them. You have a straight breast collar that hooks up here, and that sort of thing. But this piece here is just the latigo, just like it is on your riding saddle. We've got some girth rings that fit right here. This should be adjusted, and we'll go over adjustment to a certain degree, but I'll point out a few things. So it just hangs down just barely onto the half-breed, and most of it is just below it. So it's still on the pad. It's never going to wear a hole in the side of that animal where it is right there, and that stays with the saddle. Okay, then we get back into all of this gear here, this harness that is going to keep the saddle from moving forward. Okay, And that's something typically we wouldn't have on our riding saddles. Although if you ride in the mountains, sometimes some horses actually lend themselves to this. If your saddle is slipping too much, you can get an extra breeching. A breeching is what they actually, it's spelled as breeching, but of course we've westernized that and called it a breeching. And there's some connecting straps to this. These are actually quarter straps. One of them's going to go right to your cinch that's right here, and you'll notice, if you're familiar with packing at all, the other kind of saddle we're going to describe typically has a double cinch to it. A Decker saddle only comes with one. It's actually a center fire, so it comes out of the center of the saddle, and I like these quite a bit better. This doesn't have as much ability to move up into the armpit of that horse or mule and that sort of thing. And we're always considering how this thing could rub when we're packing. So that's one thing to pay attention to. But it's got an extra ring. When we're saddling them up, we'll only use the big ring. Okay? That's all we use there. So this is used for the actual pack itself that we tie on the horse at times. It's just an extra ring for right now, but never use it. As you can see, it's just put on there by some mohair or some strands of cotton if you're using cotton straps. Okay, girths. Again, latigo right here. I just have it put up. Quarter straps, I've got 2 of them. This one is going to actually go to the cinch ring, the main cinch ring I just showed you. And the breeching, the breeching is set up so the saddle just doesn't move forward. This whole piece is called the breeching. Okay, and this is the pad at the top of the croup of the horse, and it should be adjusted a little bit back from where the hip bone sticks out right there. Okay, so we've got some more upper connecting straps here, and some quarter straps that come out around here. That's why they call them quarter straps. There's 1 quarter, 1 quarter, 1 quarter, and 1 quarter makes 1. Okay, so that's one way to think about why those are called what they are. Anything else here? We have a little piece of string here that we actually use. This is called the piggin string, and we're going to use that to tie our animals together with. Okay, we're going to put some breakaways on the end of that, so if they ever get in a pickle and one falls off a ledge, won't lose the whole string. It'll break away on the very end of that. Okay, and that is tied to this ring so that there's a little bit of give and take. It's almost like a rubber band. When animals are pulling back or giving and that sort of thing, it has a little give to it, so it'll hold a lot better. So that goes out the back of the Decker saddle. Well, I turned Brownie around a little bit so you could see the other side of the pack saddle here, so I could describe some of that. Same thing for here. Here's just the pad up here, and we've got our quarter straps, and we've got our main part of the breeching that is going to go around there. Of course, some people, they're continually, if they're new to this thing, they're always saying, well, do you pull that tail through there? Well, on Brownie, it's kind of fixed. So just imagine that you can reach in there if he's not too kicky and pull that out. You know, one thing I found, and this is more because, again, I mentioned it before in some other videos, that we try to efficientize, if that's a word, some of the things we do. Is we sometimes don't pull that tail out, but they will, okay, if they want to. And that way they'll have it free and swinging, and they can take care of flies and that sort of thing. But anyway, this is the off side of the saddle is what we talk about. On side, that's typically we get on the left, or we start out on the left. And here's a little bit of an interesting history here. The reason for that, it's amazing why we do things, to me anyway, and to me it's interesting, but hopefully it might be for you. I mean, the people that came over from Europe actually wore their swords all the time on their left. And so when they got on their horses, they always got on from the left, so they didn't have to swing that sword over the top. So most of the time we've been culturalized to saddle and get on and all that kind of stuff from the left. Now, if you study any other kind of cultures, like most of the prairie Native Americans that were out and about in these spaces actually got on the right. So, I mean, and for us, for packers, I don't care. I actually want to I desensitize my animal from both sides, because I want to be able to I want to work with them from both sides. I want to get on and off. I want to put a pack on from one side versus the other side, and that sort of thing. So it doesn't really matter that much to me, but it's kind of interesting, the history behind why we do the things we do. I mean, when I was a little kid, I remember, don't get on your horse from the right. Anybody been schooled that way by an old timer? Probably somebody that was younger than me. But anyway, here's the whole setup, the same thing, the quarter straps we've got here. And this piece of latigo we have on this side, we don't call it a latigo like we do the other, just so that we know when we're talking which one we're talking about. Okay, this is called a billet, and it's always on the off side, at least to us European, with the European ancestry. Okay, so that's the billet, just like it is on your riding saddle, and it hooks on to this here, your girth, or your that there. But anyway, here's your I already pointed out the breast collar up here. We looked underneath this saddle. You know what this is? It's a half-breed. That's about the conclusion. And the reason that we have a breast collar and a breech in there is we want to keep that saddle from moving back and forth. The more it rocks back and forth, the movement, there is the chance of it loosening up, of course, and then also the fact that it could rub a sore into the horse or mule that we're using. So hopefully that helped.